Good evening and welcome to The Loop. My name is Valentine Njoroge.
And my name is Mike Wachira.
And the BBI report has been the biggest headline this week. Have you read it? If you haven't, don't worry, we've got you covered. We've got some experts coming in, Michael Agwanda and Gloria Orwoba, who will be taking us through some of the contentious issues in this report, so don't go anywhere.
And of course, we want to hear what your thoughts and opinions are. And the question we're asking you today is, do you think BBI is the solution to all our problems? And we have many problems in this country, from corruption to unemployment to insecurity to issues of exclusion. We have so many things that we need to discuss and see how it is that BBI can solve them or not. And we want to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on that. The WhatsApp number is on the screen right now. You can send us a video, you can send us a WhatsApp message. You can also talk to us using the hashtag LoopK24 on all our social media pages. Also, I want to remind you tomorrow to be right here on K24 because we have got Premier League action like you've not seen before. Burnley take on Chelsea at 6 p.m. and we're inviting you to a front row seat right here on K24.
And we have Vivian on Unplugged coming up right after The Loop, so don't miss that. She's a fantastic artist.
Right, she's a fantastic man. It's lots and lots of great music. I'm so excited for that on Unplugged. But right now, let's start things off with the stories making headlines, and these are your top stories.
Kama kuna mahali pa kusahihisha ili tusonge wote pamoja kama Wakenya. Hiyo nafasi ndio tunataka.
Senate rules out endorsing the current BBI document, noting it needs major amendments. Kemri announces that the COVID-19 vaccine trial team has vaccinated its first Kenyan volunteer. 2 suspects implicated in the Westgate mall attack handed stiff sentences.
Our sign language interpreter tonight is Josephine Kimathi, and let's take a look at our top stories. The government has urged Kenyans to take COVID-19 measures seriously following increased cases in all the counties. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe said the country was experiencing a second wave of the pandemic and called on everyone to take personal responsibility in fighting the disease.
Kagwe was speaking during a joint launch of Health Sector Partnership and Coordination Framework and the Road to Universal Health.
Kenya has also joined global efforts in the search for an effective COVID-19 vaccine. This after the commencement of a trial that seeks to evaluate the efficacy of a leading corona vaccine candidate, Chadox-1 and COVID-19.
The trial will be hosted at the Kilifi-based Kemri Wellcome Trust Research Program, a long-standing collaboration between Kemri, the University of Oxford, and the Wellcome Trust in the UK.
The trial in Kenya will initially involve 40 frontline workers in Kilifi County. Once the vaccine safety is confirmed, a further 360 volunteers will be recruited with a possible expansion of the trial to Mombasa County.
Now, following immunization, trial volunteers will be monitored over a period of 12 months to assess their health and any side effects and how their bodies develop immunity in response to the vaccine.
As of October 30th, 2020, there were over 44 million confirmed COVID-19 cases in the world and over 1 million deaths recorded.
Kenya has so far recorded a total of 53,797 cases of coronavirus and 981 related deaths.
Deputy President William Ruto has called on leaders to reach consensus on the Building Bridges initiative instead of dividing Kenyans further through a referendum.
Speaking in Kangema constituency on Friday, Ruto said the issues raised in the report will unite Kenyans if they are passed through a countrywide consensus. And as Angela Cheror reports, the DP has chided ODM leader over claims that IEBC would cost 2 billion shillings. IEBC had claimed that the referendum would cost 14 billion shillings.
Odaya Moriega. Friday morning, and Deputy President endeared himself to the vote-rich region of Mount Kenya, largely considered as President Uhuru Kenyatta's stronghold, despite a section of leaders saying he wasn't welcome in the region. The DP drum up support for the Hustler Nation, saying a national conversation that will involve the haves and the have-nots will be hard. Speaking in Murang'a, Ruto said the only way to unite Kenyans is to have a national constitutional consensus.
Wanataka twende no na yes, ndio watengeneze pesa, ndio walete chuki, ndio wafanye siasa yao. Kama wanataka siasa, wangojee 2022. Ama namna gani? Na hiyo 2022 wajipange vizuri.
The second in command also scoffed at several leaders who he accused of politicizing the BBI with the aim of looting public coffers.
Kama referendum ya 2010 ambayo ilikuwa na watu milioni 12 ilitugharimu shilingi bilioni 10, itakuwaje ati referendum hii ya watu milioni 19 ati iweze kutugharimu shilingi bilioni 2? Si ni utapeli? So mtu ya kitendawili awache kutuadaa. Yeye kwanza ndiye alikuwa Prime Minister 2010 wakati tulitumia 10 billion. Mbona siku hiyo hatukutumia 1 billion? Na yeye ndiye alikuwa anasimamia.
Ningetaka niulize Raila Odinga, kama unaona ile kazi inakufaa, umepewa kazi kubwa ya kujenga mabarabara Afrika mzima. Kama unaona IEBC haifanyi kazi mzuri, why can't you apply ukuwe chairman wa IEBC? Sisi tunaheshimu our independent institutions, and we want to tell Raila Odinga, we know you are always on a war path with IEBC.
Kuna watu wanajaribu kutugawanya, ati sisi tukue no, wao wakue yes, ndio wakule pesa ya serikali, na wengine watest mambo yao huko mbele. Sisi tunawaambia hivi, safari yetu ni kufanyia hii kazi leo, hiyo ingine ni 2022.
Hakuna haja ya vita, waweke pale ndani mambo ya kahawa, ya majani chai, ya maziwa, mambo ya hii watu ya bodaboda, hii watu ya chini, hatuna maneno.
This as ODM has termed persistent claims by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC that the polls agency needs 14 billion shillings for a referendum, a planned daylight robbery.
The chicken gate scandal has already taught us that what seems like overshooting the budget and wanton wastage is in fact clear manifestation of theft. We are certain that if we left the chicken out of the IEBC's so-called budget, we can deliver a referendum at a cost of no more than Kenya shillings 2 billion.
If it was in more advanced democracies, the Chebukati team would have gone home.
The IEBC on Thursday dismissed assertions by ODM leader Raila Odinga that a referendum will cost 2 billion shillings, defending the projected budget of 13.7 billion shillings. Chebukati said IEBC will continue to operate independently and shall not be subjected to the direction. Angela Cheror, K24 TV.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiangi has called on the national government administration officers to ensure that all the Building Bridges Initiative sensitization campaigns are carried out smoothly.
According to Matiangi, government administrators are under instructions to facilitate but not participate in or lead the BBI debate as political leaders spearhead dialogue on its recommendations. Mumbi Wambugu reports.
Dr. Fred Matiangi was speaking during a meeting with the security team where he addressed the state of COVID-19 in the country. At the same time, he urged Kenyans not to downplay the second wave of the virus.
This thing has hit us home. We lost another chief in Kajiado again the other day. So this reality is not stuff that we talk about. It has knocked on our door already. First of all, I want to ask you, my brothers and sisters, take care of yourselves. Observe what we are told by our colleagues in the health sector, all of us. We don't want to lose any one of us. And if for any reason you feel one way or the other, please, let's make sure that you take a test.
The Interior CS cautioned Kenyans against divisive politics.
It will be upon us, as you know, to work with county governments, to work with national government structures to ensure that we keep our people safe. Please work very well with your governors and county governments. This is not time for tough wars. It's not time for that kind of nonsense.
He also announced various changes in the security sector, even as the fight against COVID-19 intensifies.
If we have weak structures, we will not succeed. We have to do the best we can to ensure that we step up to that responsibility as we interface with county governments out there. So, my good friends, this is important, and this is how we are going to continue working together. And we have not departed from the tradition we all agreed at the regional level and at the county level. All our security teams must involve everyone. We bring everyone on board in our family so that even the prison officers in your regions must sit in your regional security teams, and we compare notes on a regular basis.
Cases of coronavirus in the country have gone up in the recent weeks, with reported cases rising from below 100 to over 1,000 per day, and more death cases being announced. Mombi Wambogo, K24.
The government has urged Kenyans to take COVID-19 prevention measures seriously. This follows a spike in cases in all the counties. Mutahi Kagwe, the Health Cabinet Secretary, said the country was experiencing a second wave of the pandemic and called on everyone to take personal responsibility in fighting this disease.
Kagwe was speaking during the joint launch of the Health Sector Partnership and Coordination Framework dubbed Road to Universal Health in Mombasa County.
We have now developed then over those 24 hours to a total of 53,797 persons, the number of confirmed cases.
At first, most of the counties were spared the worst, but the situation is now different, with the virus spreading fast.
It is disheartening to note that counties that had very low rate of COVID-19 infections and seem to be on their way to stamping out the virus have suddenly made a turn for the worse.
In the last 24 hours, 17 people have lost their lives to the disease. Nairobi County continues to lead with the highest number of infections.
Nakuru now is emerging as a third county with a serious situation. Mombasa has once again also continued to increase the number of cases that they have recorded.
Kenyans could now be bracing themselves for stricter measures due to the rising numbers.
We will be consulting further between now and Wednesday, when the Council of Governors and the President have a session in the summit to determine and to agree on a number of measures that we might have to take in order to reduce or at least minimize the spread of the disease.
The CS though strongly believes that home-based care could help supplement the much-stretched health services.
When you are exposed, you will be taken care of largely by your family, especially in circumstances where you do not have symptoms, where you are asymptomatic.
Speaking during the event, Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua lauded the launch of the partnership. At the same time, Amason Kingi, the governor of Kilifi, urged Kenyans to embrace the new partnership.
NHIF tayari hailipi hospitali za umma kwa upesi, lakini hospitali za kibinafsi, private hospitals, wakiweka claims wanalipwa kesho yake. Public hospitals tunasukumana nao tulipi, kwa sababu wanatengeneza pesa kwa public hospitals. Wameungana na wauguzi hapo na madaktari hapo na business people. Inakuwa saa afya, tunakuwa kwamba afya ni biashara.
Kuna zile changamoto ambao wametujuza, na bila shaka tukizipiga msasa zile changamoto, bila shaka universal healthcare ni jambo ambalo Wakenya wote lazima walikumbatie kwenda mbele.
Charity Ngilo, on her part, said that it's a good move as it will ensure that all Kenyans are provided with healthcare.
Tukisema UAC, si kusema hii ni matibabu ya bure. tunasema iko mtu analipa, ikiwa ni serikali, ikiwa ni kaunti, ikiwa ni unafanya kazi ili ulipiwe, ni mtu analipa.
Mariana Mole for K24.
Two suspects implicated in the Westgate mall attack have been handed stiff sentences days after they were found guilty of orchestrating the attack that left at least 67 people dead.
Chief Magistrate Francis Adai sentenced Hussein Hassan Mustafa and Mohammed Ahmed Abdi to 33 years in jail after he returned a guilty verdict earlier this month.
The sentence was, however, reduced to 26 years after the court deducted the 7 years they have already served in remand. The court arrived at the decision after it received a pre-sentencing report from the probation officer asking the court to exercise its discretion in sentencing the two suspects.
The two will now have to appeal the verdict within the next 14 days if they are to alter the decision of the court.
For the offense of knowingly giving support for terrorism in count number 3 for the first accused person and count number 12 for the fourth accused person, each will serve 18 years imprisonment. The sentence for this charge, however, will run concurrent to the one of conspiracy. And therefore, when you take that into account, you find that the fourth accused person will serve 18, you take away 7, and you find he'll serve 13 years imprisonment. For the offense of being in possession of an article connected with a terrorism offense in count number 5 and 6 against the first accused person, he is sentenced to serve 15 years imprisonment. All the exhibits will be given back to the anti-terrorism police units for appropriate disposal.
And those are your top stories. You are now in The Loop. Remember, we're asking you today, our topic of conversation is BBI, the answer to all our problems. Once again, is BBI the answer to all our problems? We want to hear from you, and our WhatsApp number is on the screen right now. You can send us a video message of your thoughts and opinions. You can send us a text message. You can also talk to us using the hashtag TheLoopK24.
And if you don't know yet, because it's a 200-page document, don't worry. We've got you covered with Gloria Orwoba, who is a youth policy analyst and also a governance expert. We've got Michael Agwanda joining us all the way from Kisumu, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to The Loop. We are bold and fresh look at our lives here in Kenya today. And the question that we're asking you, the conversation which has been on everybody's lips this week, I would rather say this month, is the issue of BBI. And the issue that we're discussing here today is, do you think BBI is a solution to our problems in Kenya? Is BBI the answer to our problems? And we want to hear from you. Remember, the WhatsApp number is on the screen right now. You can talk to us. Now, BBI concerned itself with 9 key points. It was talking about corruption, lack of national ethos, devolution, divisive elections, safety and security, responsibility and rights, inclusivity, shared prosperity, ethnic antagonism, and competition. Big, big words. But you know, if you break them down, these are the things that we are facing here in Kenya every single day. And so the question is, once again, is BBI the solution to all our problems?
So, Gloria Orwoba, I'm being very careful with your name, with my Kikuyu Araero problems. You're a youth policy analyst.
Yes.
Biggest problems facing the youth, which is majority of Kenya. Give me 3.
Unemployment. We have an issue with the education where we are pushing the youth to take up degrees that are rendering them, irrelevant in the job market. And I would say representation in government, both in the legislative, in the executive, and, we lack representation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've looked at BBI, you've read the whole 200 pages, I see all your notes, you came with the document.
This is the new Bible for the next couple of weeks, eh?
Yeah. Okay. So does it address those 3 main issues?
Do you know what this document does? It's almost like it's highlighting the problems that we are facing. Yeah. I see a lot of words and phrases saying, we must reflect an inclusive Kenya, we must do this, we must do that.
Yes.
And it's stuff that we already know we have a problem with. When you go on economic empowerment in terms of the youth, it's touching on what it's almost like, we know that.
It's repeating the same things
it's
we've been
repeating
talking
the same
about.
thing.
Yeah.
But wait, there's some things in there that even as a business owner, I thought, yay, 7 years exemption from taxation if you've started a business. We'll address whether or not the youth have money to start the business. But I thought that was a good thing.
First, that tax break is actually, it's a 7-year tax break for youth-owned businesses.
Okay.
So you have to ask yourself, at what age is a youth in Kenya actually getting a business? So, it's a 7-year tax break, but most of the youth, by the time they're in a position where they've set up a startup that is taxable, that is remitting, that even has a KRA PIN number, they're like 32 years old, 33 years old, yeah? So myself, I'm 34, and I've been in the space, entrepreneurship space, maybe 8 years, but the conventional youth at 21, 22, 23, they're actually not running taxable or businesses that are remitting tax.
They're even going concerns because they're not even making any money.
They are running it, we call them briefcases out of pocket.
Yes.
So when you say you are coming with this tax break, yes, it's good, but when they're going to implement it, we'll end up having only 2 years or 1 year, because most of the businesses, by the time you're actually setting up and you're able to run an operation that is, proper with books and, remitting taxes, you're actually 33, 34. So then this tax break is applying to a very small percentage of that youth sector. And by the way, just for purposes of figures, we have a population of about 50 million Kenyans.
Yes.
And 75% of this population is youth. So you do the math. How many millions of Kenyans are out there? And then someone challenged me and said, yeah, well, it's a starting point, because even from that 75%, how many of them are 31, 32? So they will, this thing is for them.
Well, it might incentivize business owners in a different way, where you might be a 45, even 52-year-old business owner who's been in business for a long time. Then now you take on a partner or a director who is youth, who can then help you
and
get
that's
that tax
exactly what we are
So,
discouraging.
Yes.
That's what we are discouraging, because that's what's been happening. We come up with policies that are supposed to address the youth sector. And we saw it with the COVID billionaires, most of those organizations that were being used as a front, they were youth-led.
Because
I mean, and it also happened with the 30% procurement, women, youth, people with disabilities.
And the idea is not to put a policy that looks like it's representing the youth and then, sasa vijana wanaanza kutumika. Because that fallacy of saying, okay, now someone who's been in business can then come and adopt a youth front.
But it's employment.
It is employment, but we're trying to change the culture of how we are actually intentionally trying to solve the problems of the youth.
So there's something that you said which I've also been repeating is the fact that the BBI seems to just have highlighted the issues that Kenyans are going through. The things that we talk about in our homes, in our other public spaces, in our private spaces as well. The issue of affirmative action funds, for example, for young people, the 30%, and for women and for persons with disabilities. These are already things that are there.
Absolutely.
So for me, what I'd like the BBI to tell me is, how can BBI ensure that this becomes a more transparent process, a process where the young people who actually require to benefit from this affirmative action measures benefit from them? They're talking about things like access to capital. Where is the capital coming from?
Exactly. And just like you've said, you are expecting that they're going to deal with the bottlenecks. And that's why I'm saying, we actually opposing BBI is it's silly, because you can't be opposing things that you're going through. But then supporting it blindly is also very silly, because you're supporting things that you're going through and they're not really giving you solutions to these things. So when you talk about access to capital, in fact, this morning I was having a conversation where I was asking, why do I have to wait for a constitutional amendment, for a referendum, in order for the government to write a letter to Kenya Revenue Authority and tell them, exempt me from those taxes? Why do I have to wait for that? I mean, we have Huduma centers. They've been set up already. So it's just a matter of saying, now we are going to add additional stations for the business advisory desk that they want to put there. In terms of incubation centers, all you have to do is literally work through Uwezo Fund, work through Youth Fund, work through the Ministry of Youth, and sit down Joe Musheru and tell him, by the way, your mandate, you've not been executing your mandate in youth.
It's a phone call.
It's literally like an intergovernmental meeting that we sit in the afternoon.
So to you, these things are not even necessary. Like, the systems already exist. It's just a matter of utilizing this infrastructure that already exists.
There's actually nothing stopping the government from implementing, if this is 204 pages, 200 pages of this, because I think only 4 touch on the expansion of the executive.
And so
I can see you guys have been talking, because this has been Mike's gripe.
For me, like honestly, and honestly speaking, exactly what Gloria is saying. If you look at the report, of course, it's demarcated into different sections. There's one that there are those things that require constitutional amendments, touching on the executive, prime minister, so on and so forth. The rest just require either amending an existing piece of legislation or passing an additional piece of legislation, or doing something administratively within a government ministry or department, or passing a policy.
Instead of a whole national referendum that is in the billions of shillings.
So for me, what it looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what it looks like is they seems to have been an agenda, the main agenda seems to have been the one around the issue of executive. But the powers that be felt they couldn't approach Kenyans and just tell them, wait, situongeze wapa prime minister. So they sort of window dressed that whole thing.
Someone was telling
with
me
other things to make it look more palatable.
Someone was telling me that if you're a headmaster in a school and you're in there and you realize you can't change anything, you can't change the real issues, then someone told me that's why you see the first thing they do when they realize they really can't change anything that's tangible, they change the gate. So when people come, they're like, you are class of 2004, by the way, your headmaster changed the gate, and then you're remembered for something. But if you go down to look at the things that they should have been working on,
it's the same problems in the kitchen,
problems.
in the bathrooms,
they
like
change the gate.
Same, but
they change the gate.
Okay, but I have a question. We've said that corruption has robbed Kenyans, and specifically the youth, of all these opportunities, the funding, even just the delivery of public services, right? So there is a huge mention on corruption and increasing protection of whistleblowers. Yes, you think this is another thing that still didn't need BBI? It could have just been done in
No,
Parliament?
because we actually have agencies. And in those agencies, if you look at their service charter and the measures that they have put to ensure that whistleblowers are sort of incentivized or protected. I mean, for instance, we even have a board called the Victim Protection Board, which probably a lot of people don't know about, which is actually supposed to safeguard the rights of those victims who are involved in certain cases, some of them even within corruption within government agencies, yeah? We have too many agencies with the same mandate. So for me, even when you now come and tell me we have a document that is addressing certain issues, I actually don't have faith in it because we don't lack documents. We have policies. We have policies that we haven't implemented. In fact, if you get into an honest conversation with the initiators of this, with the drivers of this initiative, and you start now bringing them down to the issues, you know. I had a conversation with a lady called Bridget Sankok, and she was representing, she's the founder of a foundation that deals with persons with disability.
Right.
And she was having an honest conversation saying that she's permanently disabled and she always has to, every year, go to a doctor and then get a certificate to certify that she's disabled so that she can keep getting her tax exemption.
Yes.
And so she was saying she was expecting the BBI would address those kind of administrative bottlenecks that you know, because she was like, I'm permanently disabled, you know, I'm not going to have a miracle.
I'm not waiting.
Why do you have to keep me going through this? And I could tell that the supporters of this initiative were actually saying, listen, those are small things, eh? Those are administrative matters. By the way, those are small administrative matters. They're going to be dealt with by this youth commission that we are bringing. But I was like, those small things are the ones us guys were hoping BBI would address. Yeah.
Okay.
So when you wrap it up and say those are just administrative ones and these are just legislative, so you just focus on the constitutional amendment. I'm like, then go to your boardroom, malizane yo maneno, stop bringing me into it.
Let me start with Gloria, because we passed a brilliant constitution. Fantastic. It had got all these beautiful promises for Kenyans, lauded as one of the best pieces of legislation in the world. You know, we waited, all these things we complained about. 10 years later, we are here celebrating 10 years of constitution and almost nothing. You know, there was the issue of the Big Four agenda, you know, talking about things like
universal health care,
jobs. You know, by the way, in all fairness, this government was doing well with the Big Four agenda. If you really focus when they really launched it and they started and they, you know, walikuwa wanatutisha huko na hizo lounge, they are building what and those housing in. I was like, okay, what's this about? Oh, it's about job creation. They started well. And they were actually progressing in terms of creating those jobs through the construction. So the housing project, you know, it was all about creation of jobs. It wasn't really about the houses. Yeah, it was about if we build 10,000, I don't know how many jobs a month, I mean how many houses a month, it means, you know, the skilled guys, all this informal sector, you know, there's a domino effect on the jobs that are being created. And then the handshake. You see?
And then you're like, where does that leave?
Ikachanganyisha kila mtu, you know, so, you know, so now the president was actually focused together with the deputy going this way with the Big Four agenda. The handshake came. Things started going wherever. So when you tell me about the Big Four agenda, when you tell me about healthcare and what we're trying to do with, you know, universal affordable healthcare,
right?
And even when you read the proposals where they were trying to be at in a year or 2 years. About manufacturing, because that's one of the things on Big Four agenda.
Yes.
And it's in the BBI as well.
And it's in the, now you see, mtu amekuja amewa confused, alafu they've taken a bit of it, they put it in BBI. they were dealing with it in one way. Eh?
Okay.
And you know, that brings us to our question. Is BBI the answer to all our problems? I want to take a bit of feedback here so that Gloria can hear exactly what Kenyans think.
What Kenyans are thinking and how
are
we're
we
feeling.
on the same page, or what's going on? Remember, you can use the WhatsApp line, which is on the screen right now, and you can tell us, is BBI the answer to our problems? This is Jemo Tesh who says, not at all. Rather, we need attitude change and a different perception towards life. BBI, amekata hiyo maneno kabisa. Let's see what else. Victor Joseph says, more burden to taxpayers. No. Willie Luanga, thank you so much. He says, yes, no matter the circumstance, 35% will be channeled to counties. See what 15% has done. Come on, be objective. You are 35 tutaongea. You are lazima tuongea 35. All right, that's all right. Elvis Kiplangat Ngetich says, only a fool is convinced that a mere paper will solve a current problem. We need good leadership, not BBIs. Remember, the question that we are discussing here on the show, on The Loop today is, BBI the solution to all our problems? All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to continue with Gloria, who's here, youth policy analyst. She's got so much to talk about. Na hiyo mambo ya 35% lazima tuongee. Don't go too far. Welcome back to The Loop. We are bold and fresh look at our lives here in Kenya, and tonight we're taking that bold and fresh look at this thing called BBI, Building Bridges Initiative. And the question that we're asking you today is, do you think BBI is a solution to all the problems we have here in Kenya? The WhatsApp number is on the screen right now. Remember, you can also use the hashtag LoopK24 and talk to us. Let us know what your thoughts and opinions are on this issue. Philip from Naivasha, thank you so much, says, I don't think the BBI can solve our problems to the fullest. Or maybe just a little bit. David from Githurai says, I agree with BBI, full stop. Hilary Rotich says, not at all, but it is an answer to politicians to create new positions. Mark Simba from Lambwe says, I think BBI is going to cater for everything, and therefore I fully support it. Brian from Meru says, BBI is a wastage of public resources through its conduction. That's Brian from Meru. Very strong opinion there. Amos Kutoka Dandora says, BBI ni ya Masonko. That's why I can't support BBI, because they are trying to hide something in there. What is it they're trying to hide? Of course, remember, the question of the day is, can BBI solve our problems? And we've got so many problems here in this country. Gloria, you've had the responses. What do you think?
Actually, there's the guy who mentioned 35% going to counties.
Yeah.
A lot of people are excited about that,
Yeah.
especially because it was just 15%. What do you think?
Actually, I think, you know, not everything that is in this document is irrelevant or can't be done. But I believe with the 35% going to county, we've already seen what 15% has done. And actually, the whole purpose of this constitution was to devolve the county, the national government functions,
Right.
And so you have to empower the county government so that they might be able to run as an operation that is profitable, so they may be able to also, you know, develop those different regions. So I definitely support the idea of having 35% as opposed to 15%. But then again, that does not really require a constitutional amendment, because the idea of the county revenue allocation share can be sorted out in Parliament. In fact, now one of the things that they're doing is they're trying to take out the powers that the Senate has on the allocation, in terms of money. They're actually weakening the Senate. And I know people say, oh, that's a lazy way of thinking. It's not a lazy way of thinking. If I have the autonomy to decide as an institution how much is going to each county, that's some power. And actually, that's the ultimate power in government. Because I'm able to say, these marginalized counties should have this percentage, and that's the reason why we had a stalemate. That's the reason why it took so long to get that CRA formula on counties.
Or was it just because we didn't have money?
We didn't have the money to actually disburse.
No. It was because someone was trying to come up with this thing of the 1 man, 1 shilling vote, which ideally is where we have been. We've been marginalized because of that low population, and so therefore you don't need a lot of money. So when
So they're also saying Senate will now be like Noah's Ark. Every county will have a man and a woman.
2 by 2.
2 by 2, 2 by 2. Mshikane mkono.
We get to 94 senators.
We get to 94 senators. Are they then abolishing the women's rep seat?
First of all, if you do this thing, they're saying we're going to have 1 man and 1 woman, and you get to 94 senators, and you get to a certain number of women in the Senate. But if you look at the positions of the women that are being taken away, and by the way, that's, you understand, like if you do the balance of where we are at now and this new proposal, we are actually losing. That's why I'm bringing it up. Yeah, we are losing, and I don't want to get into the details on the numbers and mathematics.
Especially if you move the women to a house that now has less power.
It has less power, but that's not even
budget.
it. Forget about that. Think about it this way: it's 1 man, 1 woman, and we're supposed to run the county and represent this county at all. And we are assuming that this man and this woman are coming from the same party or have the same ideologies. Take, for instance, now we have Keleweke and Tangatanga. So you have a senator who wins in Tangatanga and another one who wins, a woman who wins in Keleweke, right? And then suddenly we are trying to deal with the issue of divisive politics. But then you have these 2 leaders who are supposed to represent this county in the Senate, fighting each other. And of course, ultimately, pulling the county in 2 separate directions. You know, so a lot of these things, I feel like someone just sat there and they were like,
but also constitutionally, the reason the women's rep office exists in the National Assembly is to raise issues about women at that level.
Right.
So now if you remove the seat, yes, there'll be women who run and win the, you know, the MP, the parliamentarian. But you might get 15.
You might get 15, 10.
Yes.
But that's not
and
even
then they're
that's
also
not even the
scrapping the
issue.
nomination positions. So how do you even fix that?
That's what I'm telling
how
you.
How far
if
will
you
we
do,
be from the 2/3 constitutional
If you do the math
requirement?
of what they're proposing and where we are, we stand to lose in terms of numbers as women. That's a fact. And I'm ready to argue that with any BBI driver. That's a fact.
Then the executive office, it sounded to me like it wasn't mandatory. We had this conversation.
Yeah, about, okay, so, you know, first of all, they're talking about there's going to be a governor, you know, the governor is male, the deputy will be female.
I like that idea, by the way.
But is it mandatory?
The wording is it's like the wording for progressive. Yeah. Progressive means in the future when time is there, when we have resources.
And we've
like
seen
that,
how progressive things that are not compulsory are carried out. Look at the 2/3 majority rule and how it was left.
But you know, the issue here is not even how many women do we have. What are those women doing there, for instance? You know, and this idea of achieving gender parity by throwing seats to people. Seats that don't really have autonomy, seats that, you understand?
Powerless seats. It's
powerless
like,
seats. Yes. For me, and that's why I know that the people with disability are saying they've lost because they've lost the nominated seats. That's one way to think of it. But then I keep on thinking, and I've had this conversation with some of my peers in that space. I'm like, but you know, you need to get to a point where you also don't sit and you're waiting to be given something because of a disability or to be given something because you're a woman. You know, go out there, sell your manifesto, sell yourself, because people with disability are not necessarily, you know, unable to be in office.
Then maybe it covers that by incentivizing political parties to then have people with disabilities and women run for these offices.
And that idea of using political parties to get to that place where we are no longer talking about bringing more women by nominations, if we just force all political parties to say, this is how you're fronting your candidates. This is the percentage, 50% women, 50% men. You know, if you're a person with disability, first of all, you're a woman or you're a man. Then, you understand, then you either have special ability or otherwise. So for me, if we push the political parties, and that does not need a constitutional amendment, you understand? If we push the political parties through the Political Parties Act, well, you have to amend that one. Then,
but again, it's not a constitutional.
But you understand. Then for me, you've dealt with the issue of saying, if you're going to come here as ODM or as Jubilee, whoever, Democratic Party, hizo zote, msikuja hapa mnatufrontia tu hapa tuko na, you know, men.
I saw something into this. One of the things, okay, like rightly that we're saying, not everything in the BBI document is going for referendum. Okay, so there are things that, you know, can be amended with other measures, legislation, administrative policy, so on and so forth. So one of the things that is in the document, which I thought was interesting, and to this issue of representation, is, so first of all, they're proposing to scrap the nominated seats in both the National Assembly and in the Senate.
And in the Senate.
Okay, remove those completely. Now those are special interest seats. So the idea then behind there is that political parties will now have to field political party lists that now include persons with disability, women, youth, marginalized, so on and so forth. And one of the ways I think that they're trying to capture that is, or to incentivize, is to say, there's the political parties fund. So the political party which sort of adheres to these affirmative action principles and measures gets a bit more money. Now, the only problem I have with that is, you've seen political parties say, you know, we're very pro-women, and then nominate women in areas where they're weak.
Yes.
And they know the women will definitely...
Or we are very pro-youth.
Yeah.
But you know, you know, this youth agenda, you know, like for instance, ODM is pro-youth. Yeah, pro-youth. Show me their youth league and what they do. Non-existent.
Okay.
You understand? It is, so they'll do it for that money. Yeah, to the extent, the minimum, the bare minimum.
So that, for example, to use ODM as you brought them up, in Kiambu, we know ODM is not a strong party. So that's where they'll put the woman or somebody with disability or a youth member. knowing
very well it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And then they'll keep their strongholds for the people they really want representing them at a national level.
Can we take some feedback, though?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of you know, interest in this issue, and rightly so. And remember, what we're asking is, will BBI solve our problems? Baba J says, of course it's not going to solve our problems. This is a cure to the rich political class problems, not ours. All right. Robert Shitsama says, no, creating a major problem to grassroots mwananchi wa kawaida. So he doesn't think BBI is going to solve anything there. I know, right?
Yeah.
No, it's a burden on us when Jiko instead. We do not need it. That is Vanessa Chirchir, who puts her 2 cents there. We haven't settled into 2010 constitution. How sure are we that BBI will solve our problems? That's Kibet Hosea. Tom Linson Scott says, it isn't the solution. The solution is to change the system from capitalism to social capitalism. Okay, interesting. Curio says, no. In fact, it's an addition to our problems that comes with excess unnecessary baggage. Wow. All right, a lot of strong responses there. Titus Ruto says, a big no. Already, we have the 2010 constitution, which has not been fully implemented, yet it has most of the recommendations captured in the BBI.
Good point.
Wow. Bramwell Kedi says, I don't believe so. Kenyan problems lied in between ourselves, and it's our efforts that will improve our own lives. So, I mean, a lot of strong opinions there. A lot of people feel like this is repetition. These are things we've talked about before. We've seen it in the Constitution. We've seen it in other public discourse.
You mentioned something actually about this youth commission, and it is duplicated in another role.
Yeah, so one of the proposals that BBI is saying is that there is a lot of underrepresentation of the youth, which is causing a lot of backlog on administrative, legislative, and all these AOB issues. So what they're proposing is that they're saying they're going to have a youth commission that's going to have representation down to the grassroots.
Okay.
So it's going to operate in a manner where, you know, if it's on national level, on county, they will have all this representation. But when you read the mandate of that youth council, and when you read what they're trying to propose, it's trying to solve in terms of even what's going to be the service charter of that autonomous institution, it's actually a replica of the National Youth Council that exists under the Ministry of Youth. You understand?
Okay.
And actually the only difference that I was reminded, and I was told, no, it's not the same, because National Youth Council is under the Ministry of Youth, and you know, so that means it's a semi-autonomous institution, so they can't really operate independently. So that's why we've come now with this autonomous institution that is going to stand alone and do the same thing.
But if it's funded by the taxpayer, it'll have to sit under some kind of...
No, you know, they can make it autonomous so that it's a state agency that can function with a board independent of any, you know, of ministers, which is fine. But if that's the problem, just make the National Youth Council autonomous. You understand?
Yeah. Right.
Instead of coming with a document and spending so much of our money printing these things, going to Bomas, all these things, just so you can come and tell us shida yenye kwa na National Youth Council and why they have not managed to achieve their agenda is because they're under the ministry, and which even doesn't make sense because the ministry is government, and it's government that is fronting the Building Bridges initiative.
Speaking of money.
Wait, okay, now we have 2 points and we have 1 minute.
Speaking of money, because we've touched on the issue, there are estimates being thrown around. 2 billion for referendum, 12 billion. Kenya, two, then there's 14, 12, there's 14.
Yes.
Kenya is in a serious debt crisis. Even this 35% that we're saying we want to increase to counties, I highly doubt it is possible.
Doctors are on strike all over the place. Yes.
By the way, after the COVID billionaires, I can't count zeros there. Now I just know there are. You know, don't tell me billion or millions. And I was really hoping that instead of talking about 2 million, billion, whatever that is going to be spent on a referendum, we would be talking about 2 billion that's going on economic recovery.
Okay.
You know,
post-pandemic. After what this year has done to us, so many of us have lost jobs, we are underemployed.
Even just look at our airline, maybe even just send that money to KQ.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Okay. Let's talk timelines. Because there's been conversations, is it going to be a parliamentary choice? Are we definitely going to referendum? What is the timeline? Even if the people pushing BBI had 1 million registered voters' signatures, and they presented them to the IEBC on Monday. What kind of timeline are we looking at? When will we know if we're going to referendum?
But that is an assumption that Kenyans want to go into a referendum. And actually, since you're telling us these issues are administrative, administrative we can deal in government. Legislative will go to parliament and pass and sign. So when you isolate the administrative ones, the legislative ones, and you remain with the now constitutional amendments, it's very little. So I would actually personally advocate the youth should even stay away from thinking about a referendum, and they should push their leaders to push for a consensus document where mukai kwa boardroom, please, mtuache, we don't want to do campaigns, we don't want to do anything. Go and figure out what you guys want. If you want that expanded executive, put it there. If you want, negotiate those things in the boardroom, come back to us the same way we went to launch this document in BBI. We go and launch a consensus document, which basically means all the leaders have come, because we're all agreeing that we have issues.
Yes.
So all the leaders actually, you saw them in Bomas, everyone agreed we had issues, and everyone agreed we need to solve the issues. So why are you taking us for a referendum? Then that 2 billion you want to spend on a referendum, you bring it, as youth, we can set up enterprises and create jobs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask for your hard-hitting fact, but I think that was it. No, but wait, let me see. Let's see what you have to say. What is your hard-hitting final thought? What is your hard-hitting fact on the BBI report, especially regarding the youth and women?
The fact is, this report simply reminds us of what us guys are going through every day. So, you know, now I've reached a point where I'm advocating the youth. When you're done reading and unpacking and believing me, because I'm telling you, believe me, it's not, there's nothing new here. Amna kazi, that is what they're saying. Amko represented, it's what they're saying. When you're done reading it and affirming what I'm telling you, please don't engage in this referendum talk. Leave those leaders, they go, they decide they want to expand that executive themselves. Kama ni tanga keleke, whatever, waende kwa boardroom, they sit together, they decide, okay, tumejipanga. Utapata, fine. Leave us alone out of it. Us guys are still trying to figure out how we are going to recover from this pandemic. So the youth should just stay away from those referendum talks. Stay away. Yeah, stay away from them.
So how do we even... Now I have another question.
Just stay away from the talks, because even if we go to referendum...
When you refuse to participate in a civic process...
No, we have participated. We've actually gone out and given our views, the little that we could pass through. They didn't listen. We said we don't have jobs. Give us jobs. They came and said, but we are giving you tax breaks. How are you giving me a tax break when I don't have jobs?
As a matter of fact, what for me would make sense is for them like to retreat, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Come back when you've already done the legislation that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Come back when you've done those administrative changes.
Things that you're telling us that those are small problems.
Yeah.
Do them, then you
come
back
and tell us,
yeah. But
you see, government doesn't work quickly. It took 2 years to give us this BBI,
well,
this 200-page document. So now if you're saying let us refrain as the youth, I'm
not saying refrain from the conversation, but refrain from getting roped into a contest that is not yours. Because even this executive, the expansion of this executive, there is nowhere where it caps and says these 2 deputies are going to be 35 years and below. This is not our contest. As youth, there's nothing we're getting out of an expanded executive. There's nothing, even that Senate, when they say a woman and a man, they are not capping it with the years. There's nothing in there for you in terms of representation. When you go into a lot of this, when you're talking about IEBC and making IEBC, you know, having this political... Hakuna mali nasema ati hii hapa tutawachia youth. In fact, when they think of the youth, the only thing they think is, si hao ni wale watu wa makazi, basi tuwape tax break. So, you know, resist from engaging in a contest that is not yours. Yeah. It's not your contest. Let these senior citizens go and figure it out. They sit in a boardroom, and then they come and tell us to go on expanded executives, tutapiga kura.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gloria. What? She's saying that we should refrain. I would suggest, first and foremost, that we read it for ourselves and then we understand it. And I love her selfish attitude where she's saying, what is in this for me? What has this thing suggested for me? If you don't feel that you are addressed, there's room for your redress. Let's put it that way. And also ask yourself, is this the right time for us to even be discussing referendum? As you know, we've seen the figures going up and about. it's huge, it's a huge expense. Is this the right time, or is this perhaps the luxury vehicle that Kenyans cannot afford just yet, when we have more immediate problems like milk, bread, education for our children, and other questions? But you're now officially in the loop. I'm going to say goodnight and hand over to Mike on Unplugged.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic, fantastic show here this evening. On Unplugged tonight, I host singer, songwriter, performing artist Vivian. She has got a lot of music out in 2020, and we're going to be talking about her musical journey, but also we're going to be talking about some of the new projects she's working on in this year.